Well, good evening on the East Coast anyway. I guess it's afternoon other places. We're waiting for Instagram to come up. Gwen's trying to find the two. There they are. Okay. Well, everybody's playing with their phones to get Instagram. So 2 crazy cat ladies joined. We think we have people. Are we good? Yay!
We are good.
We are good. All right. Yay. I don't know why my volume was on. Okay, well, they get the same. Well, mine was on too, so we're both guilty.
Okay. Okay. Fair.
I love it when everybody's guilty. So I'm so excited tonight to have Jay and Adrian, the 2 crazy cat ladies, join me to talk about kitty cats, because we don't get to talk about cats enough and we don't get to talk to each other enough. So
I agree.
True.
It's a banner day.
Yes.
So for those of you who've been following all week, you know that we've been talking about sterilization or not of dogs, and today is our kitty cat focus. So who? Do they have headphones? It's echoing on Instagram. Do you guys have headphones?
No.
I've got a big uh-oh on that.
Let me go get my AirPods and see if I can connect it to the computer.
Okay. I'm going to get some AirPods.
Is it? Oh, echo. Sorry. You want to sound all the way down. How do I mute myself?
I don't know. I have the same problem with mine. I can never figure out how to mute it.
How about that? No, then you can't hear us on Instagram.
I know.
Echo.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
All right. So we all know.
Trying this again.
Technical difficulty is my middle name. So it just is. Yes. We'll try to fix it. I know we're good for Facebook and YouTube. We're just trying to fix Instagram real quick. Can you hear me through your pods?
Yes.
Okay. So people can let us know if that helped on the Instagram end, hopefully. Okay. So we're going to talk kitty cats, and who else would you talk cats with except for the 2 crazy cat ladies? So what we're going to do. So how many cats do you guys have right now?
5.
I got 12.
You got us beat for sure.
Yeah, you definitely have us beat.
Your cat farm is a beautiful cat farm.
The cat farm, the crazy cat farm. A reel was posted today showing the crazy cat farm and all the cats running to eat off their platters in the barn. And somebody was like, well, are you adopting them out? I'm like, well, that ship already sailed. They're almost a year old. We tried that. So no, they're staying.
I love it.
They're staying and we love them. So it's all good. All right. So now I am going to bet that the 5 kitties at your house are all spayed and neutered, correct?
Correct.
Yes.
And the 12 kitties at my house.
They need to turn their computer audio all the way down.
Turn your computer audio all the way down.
Whichever one's not connected to the headphones.
Whichever one's not connected to the headphones.
Computer.
Can you still hear me? I can hear you.
Yes.
Okay. We'll try that. All right. Gwen says she thinks that fixed it. Okay. So.
Thanks, Gwen.
This is why I made her come over, even though she's got a 2-year-old screaming out there, but whatever. So I have 12 cats. They're all spayed and neutered because I have 12 cats because some were not spayed.
Right. That's how that happens.
That is how that happens. There's
a
little thing that happens. And interestingly, on the reel today, and I never even thought about it, but all of the barn cats all trace back to one mom and one dad. So Domino, the black and white, really floofy fat cat, she showed up first at our barn. And she showed up by herself, and then a little while later drug a few kittens into the barn. Those kittens grew up. Actually, she drug in 2. Those kittens grew up. One of them sadly decided to play in traffic, which is very sad. But the other one stayed, and we spayed her. We went to spay the mommy and she was already pregnant again. Hate when that happens. So we said, okay, well, we'll let you have the kittens and then you are going in. And at the same time, Gwen moved in next door and under her porch was a pregnant cat. And actually, she was done being pregnant because she already had the kittens under Gwen's house.
Oh, wow.
I remember that video
Yeah.
of the
And
spelunking that
the
happened
spelunking to get the kittens. Yes, it was so much fun. But so Porch Kitty, who was the one who had the kittens under Gwen's porch, is the daughter of Domino, the black fluffy cat.
Oh
So
my
now we
gosh.
have like, I mean, talk about inbred. And they all have the same dad, who's this big orange floofy cat that shows up once in a while. So, so we have this whole line of cats, and it's like really good thing we started spaying and neutering because, you know, genetic things were going to start showing up at some point, and then they would be in the talk with Dr. Koger and I yesterday instead.
A little hermaphrodite right there. Yeah,
Yeah, weird cats. Anyway, so there's a reason why you and we all have spayed and neutered cats, besides the fact that I don't want 27 more. But there's a good reason for that. And we've been talking all week with the dogs about all the studies that have been done showing why they should remain intact. Like the ovaries and the testicles actually do a lot of work. There's a reason they're there. And I mean, in an ideal society, maybe we'd be able to leave our kitty cats intact as well. But I have some really good studies. So we've been doing scientific proof all week about why we do what we do and why we should change some of the things that we do. So we're going to talk about some reasons why cats are not small dogs and reasons other than population control that we have to rethink what we're doing with our kitty cats. And it's really a bigger problem for the girls, actually. Yeah. So let's talk about boy cats first. We don't have, like, they don't get testicular cancer. They don't get prostate problems. Cats aren't big with hemangiosarcoma, osteosarcoma, mast cell tumors, like all the things that we see in dogs that we neuter early. So why wouldn't we leave our boys intact? Like, they don't have medical issues they actually probably have better life if we left them intact. And interestingly, a lot of people talk about when we neuter the boys, particularly if we neuter them early, that their penis and their urethra will stay small and will lead to more urinary obstruction. Have you guys heard that theory?
Yeah. In fact, we see it a lot, and especially in like shelter kitties, we see, I mean, so it's either urinary tract infections, like consistent or blockages, or of course, like GI, like IBD type issues from shelter kitties. And the only thing that, you know, we've talked to Dr. Lori Koger, and it seems like when it comes to our male kitties, it's the age that we neuter them.
Yeah.
And I will also mention a shout out to our Pooh Bear, was the only kitty that was, I think, neutered at a very young age and was our only kitty, may he rest in peace, that ever had urinary tract issues. So, so I do, you know.
Yeah, our Oliver Twist, who's almost 19, he came to us when he was 1.5 to 2 years old. And that's when he wasn't neutered at that time. So that's when we took him to get neutered, and he's never once in his life had a urinary tract issue.
Interesting. So I worked at the second practice out of school, not holistic at all. And it's funny, my employer would not allow us to neuter cats before 9 months of age. And, you know, I had come from a practice where everything was 6 months across the board, because that's how it's always been. And this was back in the mid 1980s. But he made us wait until 8 to 9 months old for the male cats to be neutered, thinking that it would decrease obstruction and urinary problems and blah, blah, blah. Of course, we were feeding the cats completely wrong way back then. So I went on a literature search for this to see, do we have literature that proves this? And actually, there were studies in 1996, 2000, and 2007 that found no increased incidence of urethral obstruction or lower urinary tract disease in early neutered males.
Really?
Could not find a study supporting leaving them intact. But if you ask Dr. Koger or me or veterinarians in practice who actually think about when they were neutered in comparison to problems we see, I don't agree with the studies. I'm going to say that we definitely see more issues. And so what the studies did, they measured urethral diameter, but that's a fun study to do. But so we do know that on the neutered cats, particularly the ones that are neutered young, they don't develop the spines on their penis. So it's very smooth.
I did
Why
not know
does
that.
I did not
yeah
know that.
yeah why does that matter? Well, if you look at an intact boy and a neutered boy cat, you'll see there's no spines. So we do know that it does cause changes. And when we neuter the boys, if we neuter them early, they don't develop the big cheeks. I love the big cheeks. They don't, they don't get that big male appearance. So why do we neuter males? Other than population control.
Population control or spraying around the house, right? That's another thing that everyone says. If your cat is neutered, then he stops spraying. They won't spray. In fact, that's why we had Oliver Twist back in 2006.
We had never had a cat that sprayed at that point. And when he came, he sprayed my car, he sprayed my violin case, he sprayed our kitchen. We were like, what in the world? And the smell was unbelievable.
Horrific.
That's also when we found out that he was not a girl.
Yeah.
So
his original name was Orphan Annie.
Yeah.
But now it's Oliver Twist.
Anyway, so can we talk about that for a second? If you neuter your male cat, they will not spray.
Yes, we're definitely going to talk about that. Now, I want to ask you a question because you said his urine smelled really bad. And, that's one of the things that I've always said, oh my gosh, I would never have an unneutered male because their urine smells so bad. Were you feeding raw at the time that you had him?
No.
Yeah. So this is a conversation I had with Gwen. She has Edward, who is now 4 years old. It's her tuxedo. And she got him neutered. And she says, if I knew now, or if I knew then what I know now, I never would have neutered him. I either would have gotten a vasectomy or just left him intact. His urine did not smell bad. He was raised as a raw-fed baby. So I want a study that says what male cat urine smells like, raw-fed versus kibble-fed. Because we know their stool smells totally different.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Oh yeah, 100%. You're 100%.
Yes.
Yeah. And I think their urine does too, really. I mean, even like with our girls, when we were out of town and one of our girls like peed around the house, the pet sitter didn't even find it. She didn't even know that she had peed in like 6 places around the house.
And all of my cats are raw fed, and either my nose doesn't work anymore or their urine doesn't have the odor that it used to, because I used to be able to, oh my gosh, if I would walk in the house and I go, somebody peed, I'm on a mission, I got to go find it.
Yeah.
Now I'm like, oh, look, there's yellow dried urine on top of the washing machine. Didn't smell it. So I think that's something that we should look at. So for our little boys, we don't have a good reason to neuter them other than being concerned about spraying, being concerned about the odor, population control. And would they be more aggressive toward other cats in the household? Not necessarily. I've seen, I've had a few clients over the years, because it was a holistic practice, who kept their male cats intact. Sweetest, nicest cats. I had one woman, she had a huge colony of cats. She was a homeopath, so everybody was intact, and somehow nobody was breeding. I don't know how she managed all this. She kept all of her cats were the sweetest, nicest. She didn't have fighting problems, like no issues with them. So I think we need to rethink it, at least for the boys. Now, talking about spraying, so we neuter our males because we don't want them to spray. Well, let me just tell you, everybody on this farm is spayed and neutered cat-wise. I got spraying coming out my ears. So last night, little Gigi stayed in the house because she's special. And sometimes she comes to the door and I say, okay, you can spend the night inside. I got 2 walls and my washing machine sprayed by my spayed female cat.
Good morning.
Yes. Love ya, honey. Like, she is one of my favorites, but man, oh man. So I've got a great video, which I think Joey will be able to put up. And sorry, I can't get this onto Instagram, but we'll hopefully at least have it for YouTube and Facebook. But this is, first of all, this cat is weird because this is Porch Kitty's, one of her babies. She's weird because she's an orange female.
Look at that.
And we don't see that many orange females. Usually the orange kitties are boys. So for those of you who can see it, this is what she does every single morning. She runs, we're on our way from the house to the barn, and she runs up to the raised herb bed, and the tail is doing this and the urine is spraying out the back, and she marks that same spot every single day. That's our spayed female.
You sure it's not just a spayed ginger female thing?
No, because I've got Gigi, who's from a different litter, and she's gray, and she comes in the house and sprays. So, yes. So, so there you go. If you are spaying and neutering because you do not want them to spray, I got news for you. That's a bad fix. It is not going to work, or it has a good chance of not working. So, I mean, certainly they are territorial, and they want their odor in their territory. You know, part of it is I feel comfortable when I know this is my spot, and also I've marked my spot, so everybody else should stay away. But I'm just putting it out there that it is not a guarantee.
No.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
It absolutely is not. It's another way that they mark their territory. So it's, you know, it's literally just a cat thing. It's not a spayed, neutered, not spayed, not neutered cat thing. It is a cat thing.
It is a cat.
Let me ask you this, Dr. Morgan. We have heard a lot of people say that female cats, if we leave them intact, if we do not spay them, that they're at higher risk for certain cancers. Is that true?
So I have a great study on that, actually. Let me find it. Yeah, you know me, I got all my paperwork. I got things highlighted in different colors. I mean, oh my gosh. So, mammary tumors in cats, and this is a little different than what we saw in dogs. Actually, they're a lot different than what we saw in dogs. Look at the other side of this. Okay. So mammary tumors in cats are most common in older, intact females, average age 11 years. Cats spayed before 6 months or 12 months of age have a 91% reduction in mammary cancer if they're spayed at 6 months, and an 86% reduction if spayed at 12 months in the risk of mammary carcinoma development compared to intact cats. And whether or not they had any litters does not affect their mammary cancer development, which was a little different from dogs. Another difference between dogs is that dogs, the most aggressive, nasty cancers are found in the glands at the back end. And in cats, they're more frequently in the armpits, so the front glands, and they are very aggressive. The other problem with cats, which is different from dogs, because in dogs, only about 50% of the mammary tumors are actually cancerous. The rest are benign lumps. In cats, 90% of mammary tumors are malignant. That's not good. So if they do get them, they're aggressive cancers. And benign tumors, if you find tumors there on your kitty cat, is not a good thing because benign tumors are pretty rare. But one of the things that they did show in the study that the tumor size is really important. So you want to be feeling, rub your cat's belly, rub their chest, particularly if you have an intact female or one that was spayed late. Cats with tumors greater than 3 centimeters in diameter have a median survival time of 6 months. So if you let that tumor get big, you got 6 months. They're not really very responsive to surgery, chemo, radiation, all that kind of stuff. Cats with tumors less than 2 centimeters in diameter have a median survival time greater than 4 years. So that's a huge
Wow.
difference.
Big
Yeah,
difference.
huge.
Is that
So
with surgery as treatment? Is that what is
yeah,
the
you would be doing surgery to take it off. So you want to find them early. You want to get them off early and get a biopsy, see what you've got going on, and then you can make your decisions from that point. So I've got, for instance, Domino, the mommy cat. I have no idea how old she is, but we're on like 3 generations from this cat. So she at least has a few years on her before she got spayed. So that puts her in a higher risk for developing something down the line when she's 10, 11, 12 years old, who knows? And she's a big floofy cat. And she's not the type of cat that's just going to come up and roll over and say, here, rub my belly, although I can.
right?
But at some point, we're going to have to start rubbing this cat's chest and, try to catch things really early. So let's see. From this same study, which is really interesting. Research shows that cats don't have the same issues with being desexed that dogs do as far as their endocrine system. So we saw in the dogs, there may be more problems with adrenal glands, but we see a lot more Cushing's disease and Addison's disease in dogs. They're so rare, so incredible. My dog is snoring. They're so incredibly rare in cats. So their endocrine system is wired a lot differently, which is a good thing, because if we're more worried about cancer in the kitty cats, the female kitty cats, so that we do need to go ahead and spay them, then it at least takes one more thing off the plate that we don't have to worry about. It's not like, oh, she's going to get Cushing's disease. So that's good news. All right. So, oh man, we got so much stuff going on here. Let's see. I have in my notes here, vasectomy study at Tufts. I don't know if there's one going. That's all I wrote down.
What could that mean?
I think that either Tufts has a vasectomy study that they've done on cats, or they have one ongoing. I'll have to go back and look that up. But people are not like jumping through hoops asking veterinarians to do vasectomies on cats. They are for dogs. Like that's changed. And I think we need to figure out do raw-fed cats have urine that doesn't stink? Before we decide that everybody's going to leave their males intact.
I would love to see that study.
Yeah, because
sure.
I agree with you. It's one of those things where it's difficult to find. I know right before we jumped on, Jay was sharing that sometimes our Oliver will leave a gift on her desk for it, but it's something that you visually see.
Yeah,
right. You don't.
Oh, I cleaned my office today and there were 2 spots and I was like, oh, wow, I wonder how long that's been there because I didn't even smell it. And I sit right there. Like it's just right here. I sit right there every day. So yeah, I bet that would be interesting. Now, what do you know or what can you tell us in the audience about the different types of spay for females? And like just because we did not know this until we got our first
until we got our Black Panthers.
Yeah. And then we were like, oh, we need to know more about what to do and what to ask for. And are there options? Can you tell us?
So there actually are quite a few options. So one, you can have a traditional spay where the uterus and the ovaries are removed. That is what's being done around the world all the time, every day on young cats. And we're going to talk about age at spay a little later too. So that's the traditional spay. You eliminate chances, depending on the age, you're going to really decrease chances of mammary cancer. You're going to eliminate chances of Pyometra, which is an infected uterus. We can talk about the stats on that as well, because everything's gone. So, but there are some problems that occur with that. We'll talk about those. So that's one option. The second option is an ovariectomy, where you leave the uterus and just take out the ovaries. It's an easier spay. It can be done laparoscopically. They really should not get a pyo because the hormones have been taken out, and they should not have a higher risk of cancer because the hormones have been taken out. Not a whole lot of veterinarians are doing just an ovariectomy. Cat spays are so easy. Like in practice, I could do a complete traditional cat spay in 5 minutes, start to finish. So, to cut it from 5 minutes to 4 minutes by just doing an ovariectomy, my incision was only this big anyway. So, it just kind of depends, but that is another option. And then certainly if you didn't want your cat to get pregnant, didn't want a chance of Pyometra, you could do an ovary sparing spay, like we are doing more often in dogs, to leave the ovaries intact. Now, we could talk about a couple of reasons why that might be a good idea, but we just talked about cancer. So I don't know that we're going to talk too many veterinarians into ovary sparing spays with cats.
Yeah.
So technically there's really 3 options, but I don't think we're going to talk too many people into wanting to do an ovary sparing because of the high risk of cancer with kitties. So yeah, that's a problem.
And for the boys, there are the 2 options as well, right?
Boys, complete castration or a vasectomy. Now, the one thing I will say for the boys, if they have a retained testicle, we have to get the retained testicle out. Even if you have one down and one up, even if you want to leave the one down, you can leave that one, but the one up you got to go get, because they will become cancerous if they're left up there. Yeah. So they got to come out. So that's a little bit different. Oh, here we go. I found my tough study.
Yes.
Son of a gun. All right. So this is a kind of a cool study. So they were looking at feral cat colonies and how to control population in feral cat colonies without having to catch every single cat for spay and neuter. So what they did is they vasectomized a bunch of boys. So they still wanted to breed, and they still would breed the females. So they didn't, because cats keep cycling until they're bred. Like they keep going in heat, and, yowling, screaming, doing all their fun cat things when they're in heat. But once they're bred, whether or not they get pregnant, if they're bred, they think they're done. So they stop. So what they wanted to do is take the vasectomized cats and turn them back out in their colonies and let them keep breeding the females, so they didn't have to spay the females, and it stopped the overpopulation problem because the females would stop cycling by being bred by a vasectomized cat. How cool is that?
That is next level.
I need that study. That is amazing. Like, that's crazy.
And it also said that they would still protect their turf from other males coming in to breed their females because they still have the hormones there.
That is fascinating.
It is fascinating. I'm like, who thinks of this stuff?
I'm so glad they did a study on it. Like, that's really cool.
Did they have a reason, though, for not wanting to spay the ladies?
Well, it just means you got to catch everybody.
Just catching everybody.
And so by having, the alpha male vasectomized, wasn't that big a deal.
Isn't that crazy, though? I mean,
just an alternative.
I know people are going to be like, if they're bred, then won't they have babies? No, you're specifically talking about the act of making love.
Yes.
The act of making love.
Yes.
And the girls stop.
And the girls will come out of heat because they were bred and they think they're done.
I know, what's funny is we learned that a couple years ago, and I know so many people have reached out and they're like, my cat, once a female cat goes into heat, you really need to talk with your veterinarian to spay her in between cycles, which is like threading the needle, right?
Yes, because they just keep going.
They just keep going until
they're bred or they're spayed.
Right. So it's a tough question to answer.
Yeah. But I mean, I spayed a lot of girl cats in heat, and for the cats, it's not near as big a deal as it is for the dogs. And even for the dogs, it's not that big a deal. As long as you have somebody after you do your first couple thousand spays and neuters, it's pretty easy. But
after the first couple thousand,
it's fine. It's fine.
Listen, in 38 years, a lot of them went through.
Yeah.
What is the concern about spaying a cat while she's in a heat cycle?
Well, a couple of weird things can happen. The blood vessels are a little bit bigger, and the uterus is a little more swollen. And potentially they can be a little more painful post-op, but we're going to put them on pain meds anyway. Like, nobody in their right mind spays a cat without giving them something for pain. So to me, it was just not that big a deal. Now, interestingly, if you spay a cat who has a false pregnancy, or which is where they think they have kittens, but they don't, so they're
Mm-hmm.
lactating, or you spay a cat who is already lactating. It can be really difficult sometimes to get them to stop lactating when you take the hormones away. Like, it seems like they should stop instantly, and some of them don't. And I actually had one cat that we spayed in heat, and she started to lactate after surgery. It's like,
Wow.
Oh, wow.
yeah, so cats can do weird things, but it's generally not that big a deal to do them in heat. I mean, if you got to get them out of heat and you got to get them done, then, you know, because like you said, threading that needle, because you'll schedule it and say, okay, we're in between. And then that day, you're, no.
Nope. Nope.
Or not. All right. So I'm going to do one more reason why we should spay and neuter. Well, spay. I'm going to talk about spay. And then we're going to talk about some of the side effects that we do get from spay and neuter. So Pyometra. This is a Swedish study because in Sweden, they do not spay and neuter their dogs pretty much at all. And then their kitty cats, they have a very large population of unspayed and unneutered. So it's a great place to look. And these were actually, the study was actually done through one of the insurance companies. So these are all insured cats. So these are owned, well taken care of cats. We're not talking about the stray population. Okay. So what they found was the mean incidence rate for Pyometra, which is an infected uterus, was about 17 cats per 10,000 cat years at risk. That's
so
pretty
very
low.
rare.
Yeah,
That's
that is
pretty low. Really low.
Yeah.
In dogs, it's a lot different. Cats with Pyometra were diagnosed at a median age of 4 years, and a significant breed effect was observed. The breed with the highest incident rate, so remember we said overall 17, the highest incident rate was 433 cats per 10,000 cat years, was the Sphinx.
Oh,
Interesting.
That's interesting.
Yeah, and other breeds with an incidence rate over 60 cats per 10,000 years was Siberian cat, Assa cat, Korat, Siamese, Ragdoll, Maine Coon, and Bengal. Pyometra was more commonly diagnosed with increasing age, with a marked increase in cats older than 7 years. The mean case fatality rate in all cats was 5.7%. So if the mean incidence rate of Pyometra is only 17 cats per 10,000 cat years at risk, unless you have one of these specialty breeds, and then the case fatality rate of that 17 cats is 5.7%, like 2 cats are going to die.
Wow.
So I wouldn't put Pyo at the top of my list of why, I needed to spay my cat, but I think the mammary cancer with the cats would scare me more, because when I did see mammary cancer in cats, it was really aggressive.
Yeah.
So
that's what pulled the trigger for us, for sure.
Yeah. But the sad thing is that increased mammary cancer risk argument is used by veterinarians across the board for dogs and cats. And it's very different for dogs than it is for cats. So this is why we're doing this, because we want people to understand the differences between the two and be able to have a conversation that's, you got some stats behind you now.
Right.
So,
I love
all right. So let's talk about reasons why we might leave them intact or leave them intact longer.
Controversial indeed.
Very controversial.
Let's dive in.
Neutered and spayed cats are 3 times more likely to become obese because they have a decreased metabolic rate. Think about it. When they're intact, particularly for the males, I mean, they're going to be active. They're going to be racing around. You have an increased metabolic rate with females rolling around in heat. If they're going outside at all, they definitely have an increased metabolic rate. And so 3 times more likely to become obese. And then there are proven links for obesity with diabetes and urinary tract infections.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So the obesity really comes into play. So again, we've been feeding our cats all wrong with carbs and slowing down their metabolism by spaying and neutering really early. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It just
And that's
Wow.
why we have, what is it, 65% now? 65% in just the US alone, obesity rate in cats.
it's high,
You might
really high.
be more than that. Yeah.
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 So, I mean, the stats when they say dogs and cats, they say 54%. So, but cats could definitely be higher. Cats that are dry fed, definitely. Now, I will say that all of my cats are raw fed, but my mother is doing the feeding.
Portion control.
Hey, listen, this one does too. I have to. You are
Come back.
frozen.
Come back.
Hi.
Good to see you here. Yeah, you're frozen on our end. Are we frozen on your end over there too? Was that your doggy? He's doing something magical.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Well, we lost you. Yes.
You're the survivor. Oh. Yeah.
That's amazing. I mean,
But-
I'm not amazing. It's kind of crazy because it makes sense, especially what we've learned about when it comes to dogs. It makes sense, but I had no idea that that was the same case for cats.
Well, and my follow-up question to that is because when we were looking at this for our boys specifically, what the age range. So a cat reaches full growth between, I was surprised to learn, and tell me if I'm wrong, anywhere between 1 and 3 years old. Is that true?
Wow.
Yep. Right. Yeah.
Bleeding.
It's an experience. Yeah. Why not? Yeah. It's done. Oh, so sad.
Damn AT&T.
Jeez. What I think is fascinating, and when we talked before about, oh my gosh,
Oh,
and are we still here?
and here we are,
And we're still here.
back again.
Oh my, it's like the resurrection.
It resurrected. All right. Okay.
I
All right.
forgot what I was going to ask now.
Well, I have some questions because this specifically is a very controversial issue in our
yes.
world, right? So in like the cat community, TNR is super huge. Everyone, and we highly support TNR in these community cat situations, in the feral cat population, in the overpopulation, and all of that stuff. So they are being spayed and neutered way before 6 months of age, even, right? Like
If they catch them.
Yeah, if they can catch them, they're going to fix them, and they're going to, because they're, and they're doing, that's the most humane thing that they can do in these situations. But then a lot of these, especially these kittens, they go to rescues, and then many of our following, they adopt from the shelters, they adopt from these rescues, as we want them to. We think that, bless them for doing so. But they don't get that option. So we are lucky. We are very lucky as the Two Crazy Cat Ladies. Every single one of our cats that have ever come to us has always been from the street. We have always, we've never gone to a rescuer shelter and said we want to adopt a cat. It's always been some situation in which a cat comes to us. So since we knew better, since we've known better, we've been able to do better in those situations and wait that time period. But for those that have already are adopting shelter cats that are already spayed, neutered, vaccinated, dewormed, all of the stuff and things, what's your advice for like trying to keep their urinary tract as healthy as possible, help keep their bones as healthy as possible, keep them still growing and living the longest life that they can?
So this is it's a tough topic because we don't do hormone replacement for our animals. A lot of humans who lose gonads will undergo hormone replacement. And we're looking at it more and more for dogs. And again, the dog's endocrine system is different from the kitty cat endocrine system. But one product that I would recommend for kitty cats who were spayed and neutered young is my wellness product. And the reason for that is it has deer antler velvet. Deer antler velvet actually has natural female and male hormones in the deer antler velvet. Yeah.
I did not know that.
I was researching it today for a blog and went, son of a gun, look at that. So,
wow.
That's so cool.
And because we were talking about, so for Facebook and YouTube, when the feed died out there for a minute, we were talking about the increased risk of bone growth plate fractures in cats that are spayed and neutered young. So the wellness formula also has the green lip mussel, which is really good for bone and joint support. So it's funny because, I've had this product forever and I promote it for young animals because it's got colostrum for the immune system and the green lip mussel so the joints develop correctly. And then I'm doing this research today and I was like, oh my gosh, and it's got natural hormones and we've got all these animals running around that lost all their hormones and need some hormone replacement. So there you go.
Wow.
That is so
fascinating.
Fantastic. I almost added an extra F word in there, but caught myself. That is amazing. Well, and I do think too, what do you think about, I think that all cat parents, guardians, however you want to identify, find themselves having different choices to make, whether it is, going to a rescue or being a foster and deciding to keep these little ones, or being in a situation like we were. I remember feeling very torn about the whole spaying and neutering thing because it is so, hammered in, like you spay them as soon as possible. Back in the day, it was you spay them, you neuter them, you give them a bunch of vaccines, and you even get them declawed, right? Like just wham, bam, thank you, and out the door, right? And now there's all this new science coming out that's really helping us better understand. So those of us that do have the choice,
opportunity.
the opportunity to make the choice of when
Yep.
and how.
Yep.
I know with our girls, with Friday, we did the ovarectomy,
Mhm.
And left the uterus in place.
right.
Well, and that I think actually is an interesting option because I found another study. It was actually a rat model, but they did traditional spay on some of the rats and took out the uterus and the ovaries. And then the other ones, they left the uterus in place and took out the ovaries. And then they tested the rats for problem solving, like going through a maze and that kind of stuff. And they actually found decreased brain function in the rats whose uterus was removed.
Oh my God, that's what's wrong with medicine.
See, our other kitten, we just had the whole wham bam, thank you, ma'am, take it all out. And now those two are like the one that
Friday
doesn't have her
senses the
uterus
decreased brain function.
So, I mean, we think of the uterus as not doing anything. Like it's this home for kittens and puppies and babies, except that it actually produces hormones. It's an active organ in the body.
Yeah.
So, every organ that we rip out leaves behind an issue.
Right.
So we shouldn't think of any organ in the body as being removable without affecting other organs that are still there. So for instance, like the endocrine glands that are affected, but really interesting. The brain is affected by taking out the uterus.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I'm sure we could look at a lot of other things as well that are affected, but that was just a really fun study. I'll tell you, you can get down these little rabbit holes and find all kinds of fun things out there.
Spend days.
We'll have to do this again because there's a couple of rabbit holes I want to keep digging.
So I personally would say that for most people, having their cats spayed and neutered is going to be the way they're going to go. And I really applaud everyone who is willing to adopt from shelters and rescues. I understand why shelters and rescues do early spay neuter. I was a part of that for many years working with our local shelter because people just wouldn't bring them back at 6 months to get it done. They tried having people prepay. Only 33% of the people brought the animals back. Wow. That's not good stats. Even though they already paid, they just flushed the money down the toilet and didn't bother bringing them back. So that's not good statistically. So they have no choice. I understand that. And this is a conversation I'm going to have this conversation on Monday, but what do you do if you want to adopt a pet and you happen to have an unspayed or unneutered dog or cat at home and the shelter says, or the rescue group says, oh, you have an intact animal, you can't adopt.
You lie.
Don't listen.
Yeah, and then they call your vet's office and your vet's not going to lie for you. So, yeah. So that's another conversation that we need to have. Like we need to start retraining some of the rescues and adoption agencies. Like, for a lot of my clients, they don't vaccinate their animals every year. So let's say you want to go to the shelter and adopt a cat and you're one of those good cat owners who maybe they had a kitten shot and then you said, that's good. He's inside. He doesn't need anything else. I'm not going to torture his immune system. And then the shelter says, oh, you don't have your cat up to date on vaccines? You haven't given vaccines every year? You can't have our cat.
Wow. Oh my goodness. What time on Monday?
So lucky.
Yeah, I'm tuning in. It's going to be a good one.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's so much that goes into this and we have to change the paradigm. We have to change the way we look at things. Ideally, spay and neuter kitty cats 10 to 12 months, somewhere in there, if you can wait that long. If you want to wait a little bit longer, that's fine. On our girls, we do have I'm not worried about pyos. I am worried about mammary cancer in kitty cats because in the intact females, I did see that and it's aggressive and it's not fun. So that is a bigger concern. And for those who do have spay or neuter surgery performed, I've got 2 slides that maybe Joey can put up for pain control post-op. Your veterinarian's going to probably send home Onsior, which is a non-steroidal anti-inflammatory. I do believe that our kitty cats deserve some pain meds. I did not give my kitty cats the Onsior because it's a non-steroidal anti-inflammatory. I don't want to have to deal with that. So we have herbal options. DGP, which stands for doggone pain, but it's can be used in kitty cats as well, is a great natural pain medication that you can use. And for most kitty cats, they're a chewable chicken flavored. I don't think the cats like them that much, but they're probably going to need like a quarter of a pill so you can crush it up in a little bit of food or something. And then another option is we have the pain herb garden.
Yes.
So you can use the pain herb garden. You could use homeopathic arnica. So a lot of different ways that you could help control post-op pain, and not have to go with the non-steroidal anti-inflammatories. And so this is what we did with our kitty cats rather than using medications that might cause some issues for them. So
yeah, we used arnica with our last spayed female with her post-op. And it went really well. She didn't,
Good.
I mean,
Perfect.
it didn't
There
go
were
that well. There were a
complications.
couple of things.
But-
Her body rejected the sutures, but
Oh,
that
well,
had nothing
It
to do
was
with
scary.
it.
Yeah.
that can happen.
But-
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, cats are not small dogs.
Mm-mm.
We've covered a
Thank
lot of
you.
ground tonight with
Yeah.
how they're different from dogs. And we just have to look at things a little bit differently for them. But for those of you who do have spayed and neutered kitties, please, please, please modify their diets. Do not allow them to become obese. We don't want diabetic cats. We don't want cats with excessive urinary tract infections because they were spayed and neutered young and then got fat and all the other things that go along with it. So
Yeah. Yep.
Oh,
Yep.
so
Totally
helpful.
agree. There's so
Yeah.
much, especially for those of us that are rescuing. There's so much that we can still do to help our kitties at home, and diet and exercise and all just the general things, right? That we
Yeah.
all
Yep.
know
Enrichment.
are so
Yep.
important enrichment for our cats. We can still do all of that to help them. Even if, they're spayed or neutered too
So,
early
yeah.
or have some type of other issue. Complications. Yeah.
yeah. Yep. All right, ladies, this was fun. We got to do this more often.
We
Can
really
we
should.
please?
Yes.
You're a cathartic joy to us. It's always good to talk with you.
Well, pick a topic and I'll go down some rabbit holes and find some really fun studies like,
Oh my God.
vasectomies on cats.
I was going to say, I think
I'm
we've
taking that
already had a
challenge,
couple
yeah.
conversations about, we should ask Dr. Judy about that.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
we'll have our people talk to your people.
Have your people talk to my people.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. With a big list.
And
of
then I'll
rabbit
go down
holes.
the rabbit hole. Sometimes I was putting together a summit for something. I don't even remember what it was. I think it's coming up. It's a indoor air quality summit, which why would you ask a veterinarian to be on an indoor air quality summit? But they were like, well, you have a different perspective on this, like how this affects our pets.
Big.
And, I sort of think about it, but I don't really think about it because I don't even think about it for us. Well, the rabbit holes that I went down on indoor air quality and what things affect dogs versus cats versus birds, all this stuff. I was up till midnight, just like doing all this research.
It's fascinating. We've been
There's
a
a
little
lot
bit down
out
that
there. Yeah.
rabbit hole as well, and made a lot of changes and
Yeah.
modifications in our home.
A lot
because
of
it.
modifications.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So, but it's fun when you start one study leads you to the next study leads you to the next. And it's,
I
it's
know. We're all
fun to find
nerds.
out. We're all nerds.
Super
Yeah.
nerds.
I think the older I get, the more nerdy I'm becoming. I think. I don't know.
Just
Maybe
lean
because I have
into
a
it.
little bit more time to be nerdy. I don't know.
Lean into it. We all enjoy it.
Yes. We're so
All right.
grateful for you.
Well, thank you. And we are grateful for you. And oh, by the way, Mittens loves his little pillow. He sleeps on it
Oh,
every night.
does he? Oh, sweet baby.
He sleeps on
You
his
give
pillow
him an
every night.
extra kiss from us.
I will. Yeah, he's
Mittens.
a sweet kitty. All right. Thank you, ladies. Everyone, thanks for tuning in. Sorry for the glitch in the
Thank you,
middle.
guys.
Stuff
Keep it
happens.
Technology.
It happens. We'll see you soon. Thank you so much, Dr. Judy.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye, guys.